Hello, my name is Kuchesna. I'm from Cambodia. Learn a lot from here about how to rehabilitate and how to restore the degraded forest. And quite interesting. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shohei Kunitomo. I'm from Japan, from Shizuoka University. So in this time, I can get quite big, nice experience with many good friends. So I will come to Indonesia someday again. Thank you.
I feel so happy and honest when I can participate and experience a lot of things in this.
This is a very good summer camp I ever went to. I learned a lot of knowledge. I think my friends did learn a lot of new knowledge. And then we had a bunch of good friends all over Asia, and this was so great.
Faculty of Forestry, University of Gajah Mada was established on 17th August 1963 and has been embarking long academic journey since its establishment. Faculty of Forestry UGM has been contributing significantly, not only to science community, but also to wider community. To assure its top-notch education and research quality, the faculty has also been improving its infrastructure and human resource continuously. They also managed multidisciplinary collaboration as their commitment to ensure comprehensive approach for greater impact. Faculty of Forestry offers bachelor, master, and doctoral degrees in forestry. Faculty of Forestry owns and manages completed laboratories, classrooms, library, and other facilities, including 600 hectares eduforest of Wanagama and almost 11,000 hectares of special proposed forest area for education and research to support education, research, and community service activities. Faculty of Forestry is also supported by 86 lecturers with 12 professors, 57 doctors, and 6 lecturers are pursuing doctoral degrees within country and abroad. It is recorded that per December 2020, there are almost 1,500 total active of both undergraduates and postgraduate students. Research and community service activities in Faculty of Forestry are conducted collaboratively between lecturers, students, and various stakeholders. Both types of activities have significant impacts to the local and nation communities, as well as to the knowledge development that in line with UGM's slogan, locally rooted and globally respected. Undergraduate program in Forestry University of Gajah Mada offers degree of Bachelor in Forestry. The degree can be awarded to the students after they completed a minimum of 144 credit units or equivalent to 232.5 European credit transfer and accumulation system. The curriculum of Bachelor in Forestry is designed to be completed within 4 years or 8 semesters full-time during the study. 4 aspects of graduate qualifications of attitude, knowledge, practical, and general skills are taught in a student-centered learning approach and blended online and face-to-face learning process. Graduates from undergraduate program in Forestry University of Gajah Mada are expected to achieve these 3 program educational objectives. First, maintaining belief in God. strong resilience, good ethics, integrity, social sensitivity, care and cooperation, and have the spirit of independence, leadership, innovation, and entrepreneurship based on Pancasila. Second, gaining knowledge of forests as a life support system, important elements in the development and management of forests and their sustainable use, as well as global, national, and local problems and challenges. And third, having logical, critical, and systematic thinking skill, be able to produce solutions and ideas, to make appropriate decisions, to communicate nationally and internationally, and to be responsible for work achievements and apply aspects of sustainable forest management and utilization of forest resources. In achieving those objectives, the program is supported by 86 lecturers from 4 departments in Faculty of Forestry: Forest Management, Silviculture, Forest Resource Conservation, and Forest Product Technology. The learning methods applied in the program are blended online and face-to-face learning in the classrooms, video management system in the laboratories, as well as in the field. Learning methods are also in form of work internship as well as community service activities. Students also have the opportunities in various exchange programs with partner universities abroad. Various sources of scholarship are also available to support students' learning process. In 2020, undergraduate program in Forestry UGM has 1,287 active students and has been awarding 9,715 graduates with a degree of Bachelor in Forestry. One of prominent alumni is our President, Joko Widodo. Some of our notable alumni are recognized nationally and internationally, such as the latest of Profesor Dr. Insinyur Ahmad Sumitro, Profesor Dr. Insinyur Sukocho, the former of the Rector of Universitas Bengkulu and the former of Director of Simeo Biotrop, Insinyur Jamaluddin Suryo Hadikusumo, the former Minister of Forestry, the former Director General of Forest Factory, Profesor Dr. Umi Haniin Suseno, and Profesor Dr. Sunardi Prawirawatmojo. Undergraduate program in Forestry University of Gajah Mada was accredited as excellent in 2019 by National Accreditation Body of Higher Degree Education. In 2016, the program was also certified by ASEAN University Network Quality Assurance.
Faculty of Forestry Universitas Gadjah Mada has various supporting academic facilities to support the success of educational programs and the continuous enhancement of the quality of graduates generated. campus containing various academic facilities such as a wide range of laboratories, libraries, student discussion spaces, and lecture rooms are in a good academic atmosphere. The facilities are well equipped with decent technology and equipment. The Faculty of Forestry, Universitas Gadjah Mada has 4 departments, which are the departments of Forest Management, Silviculture, Forest Resources Conservation, and Forest Product Technology. The Department of Forest Management has 5 laboratories, while the Department of Silviculture has 4 laboratories. 5 laboratories are also possessed by the Department of Forest Resources Conservation. And finally, the Department of Forest Product Technology has 5 laboratories. In addition, there is Field Laboratory Unit Service. In the field of forest management, there are 5 laboratories. A wide range of forest measurement tools and digital platforms are introduced for students to be millennial foresters. Intense interactions among students in academic activities are performed to address current issues related to forest and forestry worldwide. In the Department of Silviculture, there are 4 laboratories that present and develop the science and technology development and rehabilitation of forests. These focuses are the attempts at playing an active role in improving the productivity and benefits of forest resources for the welfare of society. The Department of Forest Resources Conservation has 5 laboratories. The laboratories present and develop science and technology in conservation of forest ecosystems. Attention is focused on the rescue, protection, management, and wise use of forest resources for the preservation of forest resources in a sustainable life support. Students are encouraged to go wild in nature to understand the balance of ecosystems and life. In the Department of Forest Product Technology, there are also 5 laboratories that present and develop science and technology to manage and process the timber and non-timber efficiently for welfare of mankind. Sophisticated technology and instruments are manifested as the strength of the department in innovating the manufacturing process of forest products to produce high added value products. Advanced technology on biomass processing is performed to generate derived products and broaden knowledge for an accelerated education for students. Field laboratories possessed by the Faculty of Forestry, Universitas Gadjah Mada comprise 3 field laboratories. The field laboratories facilitate education, research, and services based on study focuses. There are 3 fieldworks that are held routine by the faculty, namely the fieldwork of Introduction to Forestry Science, the fieldwork
Morning, Sensei. How are you today?
Hai, selamat pagi. Selamat tengah hari. Sekarang di Depok, selamat tengah hari.
Yeah,
Hi,
yeah.
how are you? Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, thank
How is
you
your
for
family?
your. But our family also fine.
Yeah,
Even
good.
coronavirus is spread out in
Yeah,
English,
yeah,
but
yeah.
we still, yeah, take care with our family and our health.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you very much for your for the students on our summer course.
Sama-sama. You're welcome always. Yeah.
Yeah. We wait maybe 5 minutes later to start the summer course.
Okay.
Work of introduction of the types of forests and the fieldwork of sustainable forest management practices. In these fieldworks, students are taught by strengthening hard skills and soft skills to complement theories delivered on campus. Universitas Gadjah Mada, locally rooted, globally respected.
Welcome to Faculty of Forestry Universitas Gadjah Mada. We are Faculty of Forestry Universitas Gadjah Mada is one of outstanding higher education in tropical forestry in particular, and we have long experience in research and education regarding with the
Um, Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. So we are going to start our session today. So welcome, Professor Dr. Shinya Numata from Japan. Thank you very much for joining us today. It's such an honor to have you here, though in virtual way. But we hope that you are always safe and healthy in Japan, because in Indonesia we have very active cases in increasing number of
recording in progress.
Okay, and we are going to start our session today. So Professor Dr. Shinya Numata will give us a really interesting topic regarding wildlife tourism in national parks. But before we start his talk today, so I'm inviting for Dr. Widiatno to introduce our speaker today. So please, time is yours, Pak Widi, to introduce our speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Laras. Today we have one speaker from Tokyo Metropolitan University. Thank you for the Professor Dr. Shinya Numata already come in our summer course, and he will give the lectures entitled with live tourism in the tropical national parks. Before presentation, I will try to introduce the Professor Shinya Numata profiles. He is a professor in the Department of the Tourism Science, Faculty of Graduate School of Urban Environmental Sciences, Tokyo Metropolitan University, and he have many research and many experience, especially in wildlife and national park. So some of the project of the Professor Dr. Shinya Numata is like wildlife tourism in Southeast Asia, and the natural-based tourism development in the Southeast Asia. And also he have the many others projects, such kind the general flowering of Pterocarp, and then urban ecology and human biodiversity relationship in the megacity. Yeah, this is I think the great project and the great experience from the Professor Numata. We hope we can get the many advantage from his lectures, and hope we can enjoy and get the fruitful discussion. Okay, Ms. Laras, I hope you can guide and facilitate this summer class lecture today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the introduction. So please welcome and inviting Professor Dr. Shinya to deliver your talk. Start now. We will have 2 hours for the presentation, and including the discussion will follow afterwards. So please, time is yours, Professor Shinya Numata.
Thank you very much for introducing me. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for inviting these lectures. And it is a great honor to me to share with my understanding and experiences with you. And also, we'd like to say that it's quite difficult time we are facing now due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and we have to hope we could get relief from pandemic COVID-19 as soon as possible. And this is personally, so yesterday I got the second dose of the vaccination yesterday, in fact, and I'm not very fine. I'm so sorry to say now, but not so bad, but not so very fine. And sometimes I may be confused. And in that case, some later could you give some question by chat box or any other method, for example, by using email. Yeah, I would like to answer if you can understand well, due to my English problems. Okay, let me start my lecture today. Okay, I'd like to show my presentation, and I think you have my slide. Okay.
Yes, but
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Today, I'd like to talk about wildlife tourism in tropical national parks. And let me introduce myself. I think Dr. Widiatno gave a good introduction on me, my interaction to you, but I would like to briefly give my brief introduction to you because it's quite difficult to understand what is my expert. Because originally I was ecologist because I have joined some research project in tropical rainforest conservation in Malaysia since 1996. At that time, I was very interested in tropical biology, especially for the Dipterocarp species that is some very important timber tree species in Southeast Asia. And I did many research projects for the ecology of the Dipterocarps. But now I belong to the Department of Tourism Sciences in Japanese university, and now I dedicated to work for nature-based solution using tourism. This is just an example of Dipterocarp studies. I'm now really interested in the Dipterocarp's biology and reproductive phenology of tropical tree species, and also very interested in mechanism of Dipterocarp floral induction. Today is not topic for today's lecture. So, but if you're interested in, so please let me know. I'm very happy to share with our understandings and experience, and also it's happy to have a good fruitful discussion if you're interested. The second, now I'm some experiences on the wildlife tourism and the forest management studies. For example, this is some example of my research output. This is some research output with my colleagues in the UGM. For example, resident support community-based tourism. This is studied on community-based tourism in Indonesia National Park. But we also have another project in Malaysia. So in Malaysia, I have conducted some wildlife research and also the tourism research. And I am now developing some business model of the wildlife tourism in Malaysia. And today I'd like to give a talk about this example of the marine wildlife tourism in Malaysia. And also I'm very interested in not only the tourism, but also the future of the tourism. Because when we consider the nature-based tourism, we also have to understand who are very interested in the nature-based tourism. For example, I think some of you are very interested in nature-based tourism, but not all. This is because some people have many contacts to the nature in childhood, and it is many studies suggest in childhood nature experiences is very important predictor for understanding some nature and people interaction in adulthood. So now we have done some research project to understand the childhood nature, how the childhood nature experience influence their adulthood, the behavior or attitude towards nature, and also how we can get some more efficient biodiversity conservation ways. There are many kinds of people because they have very different and various kinds of the attitude towards nature. So this must be very important to understand the market of the nature-based tourism. So now we have some research project in this kind of some understanding the childhood nature, how the childhood nature experience influence their adult behaviors. Okay, we are going to some today's topics. So today's topic, I give over 4 main topics. One is protected areas, and the second is protected areas and nature-based tourism. The third topic is wildlife tourism, and fourth is the challenges for the sustainable wildlife tourism in Southeast Asian national parks. And the 4 topics, I'd like to give my case studies. And I hope some of you can enjoy my talks, but unfortunately, many people said that my talk is very whispering, and it's a good you sleep. And I think so you can enjoy without any sleeping during these lectures. Okay, going to talk about the protected areas. I think so. Protected areas are not so common for us. I think you know, but you know well about the national parks. National parks is one of the protected area categories, and this is an example of some Japanese national protected area cases. This is very famous national parks in Yakushima, but this Yakushima Island is located in Kyushu Island, between Kyushu Island and Ryukyu Island, and it's quite important and interesting in terms of biogeographic regions because they are located is the border between some temperate climate zone and tropical climate zone. So in these places, we can see quite unique fauna and flora in very, very unique forest ecosystems. So this Yakushima Island is designated the national parks, but also the World Natural Heritage and UNESCO Biosphere Reserves. So they have many different types of holders of the protected areas. So if you're interested in, if you have opportunity to visit Japan, please visit the Yakushima Island. You can see that it's big trees with some more than 5,000 years old, the big trees. This is also the second example of the island. This is Bonin, or in another name, it's Ogasawara Island in Japanese. So this place is also designated as a national parks, and also the designated as a World Heritage. So this is a very interesting point, and it's a very beautiful place. But it's quite far from the mainland Japan because this place belongs to Tokyo, but it's from the mainland. So it is 1,000 kilometers far from some city center area of Tokyo. So if we want to go, there's Bonin Island. So we need to take 1 day, 24 hours by ship. But it's some. I can say that this place is quite beautiful places with the very beautiful marine and sea ecosystems, and you can see the quite white sands and beaches. So I think this is also very famous place, but unfortunately some transport is not so good, and unfortunately, transport is not so good and not so convenient. And so many people cannot come to this place. So these places can be conserved as some good natural places. So this is another one. It's a Mount Takao in Tokyo. This is some designated as a national park. This is the second class national park, or the Kwashi National Parks. And this is also located in Tokyo. And this is famous for the most highest number of visitors all over the world. And I think annually, so many people visit this place. Almost 3 million people visit this place. So this place is very famous, but this place also can be considered as a protected areas. So I showed some different types of protected areas, but what is some protected areas? So protected areas sometimes involves national parks, wilderness areas, community conserved areas, and nature reserves, and so on. And generally, the protected area is defined as a geographical space, recognized, dedicated, and managed through legal or effective means to achieve the long-term conservation of nature with associated ecosystem services, and cultural values. This category, this definition was made by IUCN, and we refer to some IUCN definition 2008. So what is an IUCN? IUCN is one international organization, and its name is International Union for Conservation of Nature. And the IUCN is an international organization working in the field of the nature conservation and the sustainable use of natural resources. And it is involved in the data gathering and analysis research field project, advocacy, and education. That means not only for some government people, but also any scientific people like me are also involved in this international organizations. And they provide some different types of working groups in IUCN. One is the Commission on Education and Communication. Second, for example, Commission on Environmental Economics and Society Policy, Social Policy. Third is Environmental Law. The fourth is Ecosystem Management. Fifth is the Species Survival Commission. And sixth, World Commission Protected Areas, WCPAs. So when we consider the protected areas, we cannot avoid to mention about IUCN and also the WCPA, World Commission on Protected Areas. And this is establishment. This works for the establishment and also the effective management of a network of the terrestrial and marine protected areas. And besides this WCPA, there are many different types of commission or groups for working for the conservation of natures. I think you can see that what is, okay. So you can see that when you see any of this kind of some commission's names. So you know what is most important for the conservation. Education, not only for the species survival, but also the ecosystem management, environmental law, environmental economic and social policy, and also the education. They are very important tasks for conservation of the nature. Okay, going back to the IUCN protected. IUCN had developed this IUCN protected categories. And these categories that provide in general 6 categories in general. For example, category 1 is divided into the 2 types of category, 2 types of protected areas. One is restricted nature reserves, like this. And 1B is we call it some wilderness areas. So primary goal and protected values are a little bit different, but almost same in category 1. For example, 1A, biodiversity or geoheritage protection, and 1B is protection of the natural character and condition of the unmodified or slightly modified areas. But it's some relevant to tourism, a little bit different. So it's some also similar, but this is quite characteristic. For example, the 1A, most visitor areas is prohibited, and public access only possible through organized scientific, citizen science, or volunteer service programs are allowed, for example. 1B also similar. Low density visitor use is often managed objectives and restricted public access and commercial tourism activity limited and highly regulated. So generally, this category 1 into tourism activity are restricted or prohibited, and we have no any activities about some commercial tourism activities in this area. But the other 4 categories, for example, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. For example, the category 2 is national park systems. So at today's topics. So national park is a quite famous protected categories, and this is a protection of an ecosystem and its large-scale ecological processes. And relationship with tourism, it's some visitor use and experience is often the management objectives. And a range of recreational opportunities are typically provided through tuning, facility development, and visitor services. So this is quite big difference from category 1 type of product areas. Or in national parks, they allow generally some to do any tourism, commercial tourism activity in such areas under some limitation. And protected also has other category like a natural monument. It's a conservation of specific natural features, ecological recreation and community values, and habitat species management area for some specific species. And 5 is protected landscape, seascapes, and 6, it's managed resource project. It's for the sustainable use of natural ecosystems. So generally, except category 1, some kind of commercial, some tourism activities are allowed. And so it's quite important to discuss what is the sustainability and what is sustainable management or development of the tourism in protected areas, protected category 1. So, protected areas some quite varies in terms of some use and some restrictions, but we should know that not all protected areas are allowed to use tourism or any other some commercial activities in a protected areas, but any national park, national monument, any protected landscapes, seascapes, or any resources protected areas, this is quite important purpose. How we have to make a balance between conservation and or protection and use of some protected resources. So, in fact, so what is some protected area? What condition? What we consider protected areas in the world? This is just a World Database on Protected Areas of June 2017. Not new, but we can see some general pattern of the distribution of protected areas in the world. So you can see these green colors and cobalt color and some terrestrial and marine protected areas. And you can see many protected areas can be seen all over the world. For example, in Indonesia, not so many, but some parts. Japan, not so many too, but some parts. I think some part we can see some concentration of the protected areas like Euro or some Amazonia areas and so on. So, but now many people, many government are now very interested in some designating protected areas. This is because, for example, this is some general pattern of some general pattern. Sorry, there's some trends in the protected area increment year to year. So, so this is, for example, some from 1990 to 2010, terrestrial area of the protected area increased from around 10 million kilometers square to 23, I think 23 or 24 million kilometers squares. And also the marine area, marine protected area also the increase. Unfortunately, the marine protected area was so very, very small areas by the until 2005. But after that, some marine areas, area of the marine protected area increased some dramatically after 2017. So now, we know some many protected areas are still increasing, and many countries are trying to designate protected areas in this area all over the world. So why they want to increase? So this is due to some in the context of the international treaty. You may know that some as one of the important international treaty for the conservation of the nature. We have some convention on biological diversity. We call it CBD in our world. So CBD had some conference parties was held in 2010 in Nagoya city in Japan. At the time, so we set very important one target and one protocol. Aichi target and Nagoya protocol for conservation and also the access and benefit sharings of some natural resources all over the world. So one of the target set at the in 2010. So they provide some in total 20 targets, other some Aichi targets, and one of the target 11, say emphasize some importance of protected areas increment. So because the protected area is very important measure for conserving natures and some wildlife and biodiversity in all over the world. And sometimes also the protected areas are very effective. So on the CBD and each target, so they set the target 11, and at that time that they emphasize at least 70% of terrestrial and inland water areas and 10% of the coastal and marine areas should be designated as protected. So this is very effective and the strong impacts on our some conservation policy and management all over the world. And many countries, they pointed to the conservation of biological diversity as an international treaty. And they trying to increase their some protected areas in their countries. So as a result, this kind of increase in protected areas, not only for the terrestrial, but also marine areas, are observed since 2010. But so protected areas is still ongoing project because still human pressures with the protected area can be seen in these areas. For example, this is just an example of some Jones et al. 2018 and published in the Science. And they use some global map of the remote sensings, and they showed how the protected areas influence the human pressures. And they are classified as different types with some different spectrum of some intense human pressures. For example, this is the speed suggests this is some city within national parks. National park is generally used for the conservation, and we can see, we know that this kind of places are in generally established in nature-rich areas. But some places, some national parks or some protected areas are located in city or surrounding cities. So such national parks or protected areas strongly influence the human pressure. So this kind of national parks are continue to be suffered from very continuous the human pressures. For example, number C is some different. This is some, you can see some number 11 and some line. This is some major road. And road is sometimes very significant threat on biodiversity, especially for big animals, because big animals, big mammals, they need some wide range of home range size and also the habitat range size. So, and if there are some road or a big road, and they might cause any road kills considerably. If so, their habitat are significantly reduced, and their some risk of extinction might be increased. So sometimes such road construction cause some HF, not only for the HF effect, but also some direct impacts on the wildlife survival. So such some road construction is one of the important human pressures in national parks. D is also most common, I think. This is some agriculture and building in national parks. Sometimes the national parks are located in some remote area from cities, but it must be the convenient. Some might be some convenient for for some agriculture production or some. In that case, some people may use such land in a protected area for the agricultural purpose, and this is very common for all over the world. So this kind of some places can be seen and all over the world. Of course, it's quite a different geographic differences. For example, in America or some Russia, we can see the some blue colors. But some Japan or some Euro has some orange colors. This is that means some different human pressure types can be seen in the world. And when what we want to suggest is some setting, designating protect is not end. It's just a study how to maintain either their biodiversity in the protected areas and these areas. Okay, and sorry. Now I'm going to some specific case of some national protected condition in Japan, in Indonesia. For example, if you are interested in protected areas designation and conditions, I think please visit protectedplanet.net like this. This website is provided by the IUCN WCPA, one of the group of IUCN WCPA, and you can see the protected areas all over the world. This is just an example. So when we look at some Japanese protected areas, so they provide some statistical information. Number of protected areas, 4,915, and area terrestrial 29.39%. It's almost 30% are designated as protected areas in Japan. But area at marine is 8.23%. But it is we have to we need to make a caution because some marine areas are not well protected in Japanese cases. I don't talk about the details, but some marine areas are designated, some fishery areas are designated as marine areas. This is a very big problem for the Japanese protected area designation systems now, especially for the marine areas. And also the protected areas in Japan. So in IUCN management categories, so we can see like this. 1A, 1B, just only the total of 45 accounts. And they just account for only the less than 1% of the areas all over Japan. So we know that some very strict conservation areas of the protected area category 1 is quite limited in Japan. But I need 2, 4, 5, 6. I think it's quite common, especially for the category 4 is quite common in Japan. So 4 is some habitat species management areas. And so this is generally used as some prefecture, as a Japanese state level wildlife protection areas are used as a category 4. And this place is quite common in all over the Japan. And so category 4 is quite common in Japan. And this place generally used not only for the conservation, but also any hunting or any other kind of some recreation. So in Japanese cases, protected areas, some use of some tourism or some recreation is quite common in Japan, we can see. And also this is some another case. We also have Japan has many national designations. For example, coastal marine and prefecture national park, Kashi National Park, second river national park, second cross national parks. And also we have some prefecture, wildlife, green corridor, and many kind of different types of the protected areas. It's strongly dependent on the countries, but so this is sometimes good because we have many choices for designating protected areas in Japan, but sometimes they cause a problem because all of these kind of protected areas systems are managed by different ministries. And sometimes we need to coordinate among their ministries to be effective for effective management of protected areas, because they have their own profit, their own some target, and sometimes quite difficult to coordinate their some benefit sometimes, even though they think as they want to conserve this point. And also the some international protected area also important. And as for example, World Heritage is quite famous. Ramsar Wetland International. This is also international treaty, and also the UNESCO map land biosphere reserves. I think well known protected area systems of international designation. So in Japan, we can see the 5 UNESCO land biosphere reserves in this series. So the national park is sometimes very important nature-based destination for Japan, and also the important places for the conservation. And we have some 2 different types of national park. One is national park, first-class national park. We call it Kokuritsukoen in Japanese. And the second part is the Kashi, or a second-class national parks in Kokuritsukoen. What is some differences? So one first point is some managers or some main manager of the protected areas are different. For example, first-class national parks are managed by Ministry of Environment in Japan. This means it's managed by national level government. But quasi or second-class national parks are managed by state level or local government level. Also, they are designated by the Minister of the Environment. So designation is the same, but some management system is different. This is some very important key point of the some understanding of national park systems in Japan. And also I think some national park systems in Japan is a little bit different from, I think, Indonesia or the US or so on, because generally, and it's quite famous that the US national park systems, they have everything. For example, not only for the management system, but also their land ownership in their national parks. So it's quite easy to manage everything in their national parks in the US. But Japanese case, its land ownership is quite complicated. For example, when we visit national parks in those areas, the private and the public lands are mixed. And also the public lands also mixed in terms of some government, national government level, state level, government level, and so on. So this is quite difficult to manage this protected area for the conservation and any other purpose for this kind of protected area management. So what is some problem? What is a headache? Is it some national park systems? Is it everything is some coordination of this kind of problems in national park management. So this is a national park systems in Japan, and this is some just for your references. I'd like to show some case of protected areas in Indonesia. And Indonesia has 733 protected areas, and 254 was management effectiveness evaluation. But there's no effective area-based conservation measures. But when we see there's some table map, I think protected areas some distributed through the Indonesia, not only some Sumatra, Java, but also the Borneo or any Sulawesi or any other island. In the protected areas in Indonesia, some terrestrial protected area coverage, 20.17%, and marine protected area coverage is 3.606%. So I think now some Indonesia protected area designation is now still ongoing, and sorry. Now, I think many governments or some countries are trying to increase this protected area for the there are many kind of different purpose of the conservation. But what is the characteristics of the protected areas in Indonesia? This is some national designations mainly, but it's when we look at some national designation, I think the nature reserve is quite common because they have 252 nature reserves in Indonesia, and national parks as also 49 national parks in Indonesia, and marine national parks also 9. I think Indonesia has quite large land areas, land territory, but they have some many national parks and national reserves areas. But not only some national parks or nature reserves, they also have different types of designation of the protected areas in these areas. Probably, so if you're a UGM student, you may know well about the Gunung Merapi National Parks, as it's closing to the Yogyakarta. And Gunung Merapi National Park is a national park, and one of the national parks under the national park systems in Indonesia. And this place is a quite interesting place, I think, because their national parks are managed, but some I think quite tourism activity. It's like using some 4x4 cars or some buggy, quite common and active in these areas. And also some natural environment is also important because the Gunung Merapi is quite active volcano, and they cause and sometimes they reset some vegetation and slope over these mountains. And this may cause sometimes quite unique ecosystem. But not also some neat natural, but also the quite unique with some mixed, some artificial and some natural ecosystems including some introduced tree species. But so I think Gajah Mada UGM has some other important and very interesting places for, I think, tourists. The Borobudur Temple Compound is a World Heritage. The World Heritage is generally some designated protected areas in IUCN, but here is not different. It's different. It's not protected areas. So this is because this is quite simple. I think, as you may know, the World Heritage systems. World Heritage has 3 types of World Heritage. One is World Cultural Heritage. Second is World Natural Heritage. And third is World Mixed Heritage. Mixed heritage means they include some essence of the cultural, natural heritage. So IUCN category, they just involve the World Natural Heritage. But so what is some World Natural Heritage in Indonesia for the Komodo National Park, Ujung National Park, Lowland National Parks, and Tropical Rainforest Heritage of Sumatra. But any Borobudur Temple Compound or some Prambanan compound, they are for the cultural heritage, and so they are not protected areas in accordance to the IUCN categories. So please understand, sometimes it's quite confusing, but the World Heritage have different 3 types of definition of World Heritage. Okay, I just sorry that I gave very quick explanation of the protected system and all over the world. And I'm going to some next topics, nature-based tourism in protected areas. To deal with the tourism sustainability in protected area, we have many issues. For example, from the conservation, tourism presents a complex set of challenges. And also the many protected areas are managed for the tourism, but legal, political, economic, social contexts for the tourism in protected areas widely vary across the globe. So this kind of issue is very important issue for internationally. So many international experts are some struggling and tackling with this kind of issues. So protected area tourism is some quite complicated context we have sometimes. Sorry. So for many years, because in protected various types of tours can be made, and also there are many kind of destination. Also, there's some protected areas are one of some important nature-based destination. So for many years, I think at least for 2 or 3 decades, the IUCN has had an active group of professionals contributing towards the practice and tourism in protected areas. But in fact, somehow the important is protected area for the tourism. So this is just an example of some result of some study. For example, how often do people visit the world protected areas? This is a well-known study in Balmford et al. 2015. And they analyze data of protected area visitation from 1998 to 2008, 10 years. And they are looking at 556 protected areas in 51 countries. And they evaluated the protected areas receive roughly 8 billion visits per year, of which more than 80% are in Europe and North America. And these visits generate approximately US 600 billion per year in direct in-country expenditure and US 250 billion per year in consumer surplus. So I think they just cover only the 51 countries, but they success to show how the tourism is important for the protected areas all over the world. And who are some the tourists visiting protected areas? This is just an example of the typology of the international tourists that visit protected areas. For example, there are some different types. For example, explorer, some means individualistic, solitary adventurer require no specific facilities, maybe relatively well off, but prefers not to spend much money, rejects purpose-built tourism facilities in favor of local ones. And backpackers and backpacker plus, it's travel for as long as possible of limited budget or taking years between school, university, and starting work. I think many young students may be interested in backpacking. I think. But as a backpackers are some important, one of the important type of tourists in protected areas. Also, high volume is a little bit different. Often inexperienced at traveling, prefer to travel in large groups, maybe worse. In the general interest, many travels, free independent travels on trail-made itineraries with a tour operators and often prefer security company of groups. And special interest in dedicated to particular hobby, fairly adventurous prepared to pay in diving hobby and have other take care of the logistics. So there are some different types, but generally, so last few 2 or 3 decades, so many people understood most of some visitors who visited the protected area or nature places, they are well educated and they are some relatively rich, highly educated, well age, and relatively middle age or I think elderly people with some money. But during the last 2 decades, so this kind of the main international tourists who visit the protected area are a little bit different because due to the change in the mode of transport. For example, as you know, now we have many choices for some travelers. Like we can use sometimes low-cost carrier LCC for international travel, and it's quite cheap and quite reasonable to move between the countries. And in this case, they allow to us to move and to visit. There's many kind of places without any problems with economics. So it's some type of most of the international tourists some just changing. And I feel that a couple of cases, many tourists and visiting nature-based destination were upper class, but now there's some current the situation is a little bit different from some 20 years ago or 30 years ago. So now we need some research to understand their typology, the type of tourist to visit. And also this is some different aspect of some nature-based tourism in protected areas. This is to examine what PAs are attractive for the tourist. So to discuss that point, so this study, Chung et al. 2018, used multiple regression analysis to examine factors affecting annual visitors numbers in protected areas. And they suggest, I think it's a quite simple one. I think it's some multiple regression models, and they use some different types of model 1, 2, 3. And what is the difference in models? This is some different, it's a number of explanatory variables. So to explain the some annual visitors, they use, for example, biodiversity, category factors, demographic, economic, agriculture, regulating economic ecosystem service, and use. Of course, some intercept is, R squared determinant, coefficient of determinants is not so high, around 0.47, but many model success to explain the annual visitors numbers. And interestingly, so what is the most significant factors affecting annual visitor numbers? This is a biodiversity. For example, they when showed some kind of some coefficient. The coefficient level is high, and biodiversity, total species numbers, or PAH, like this. So this suggests some nature-based tourism is more frequent in protected areas that are of higher biodiversity, older and larger, more accessible from urban areas at the high elevation areas. So, so this is must be one of the motivation, become one of the motivation to conserve biodiversity in protected areas, because to be attractive for the tourists, so protected should have more high number of species. So to maintain the species numbers, so they need to pay the effort for the conservation. So this kind of some nature conservation, biodiversity and tourism is quite highly tighted, and we cannot divide these different objectives. But there are some debate that trends in number of visitors and nature-based destination areas. For example, this is some quite controversial paper published by Pelgams and Zaradik 2018, proceeding of Natural Academy of Sciences, quite high impact papers. And they suggest, they check what they show. This is some world per capita public land visitation. And this NPV, NFV, SPV, this is some total number of visit of the US. This is Japan. And this is Spanish. And when we look at this, there are some decrease in number of visitation since 1990s, early 1990s. This can be also seen in US national parks system visitation. So they conclude probably shift away from nature-based recreation, especially in US, in Japan. But this is also controversial because they just look at only some Japan and US. But they, other papers, some Balfour et al. 2009, and they also showed a different data set. And they showed the changes in the total visit numbers and per capita visit numbers. And this is A and B are the similar trends, but A is some change in total visit from 1992 to 2006. And Africa, Asia, Latin America, Europe, and Australia. In Australia and North America, it's a no significant increase in changes in the total visit. But Africa or Asia or Latin America, they showed a significant increase their total visit. So they conclude that some exception, like US or Japan, generally as a global trend, some number of total visit to the protected areas increased, at least some early to early 2000. So now we have really need to caution to understand this point, because now we have getting very big impacts of COVID-19 in protected areas. And it's quite clear that this COVID-19 hit this kind of number of visitation to the protected. It's quite many evidence suggest it's quite considerable impacts. But now we have to carefully consider how the number of visitors can be recovered after the COVID-19. Okay, so I just I emphasize how the tourism is important in protected areas, but sometimes as I mentioned, there are many challenges in a context of tourism developed in protected areas, because sometimes there are trade-off between the conservation and sustainable use of the natural resources in protected areas. So like IUCN or any other international NGOs organization, they have developed some guideline or some guiding for the tourism and visitor management in protected areas. This is just an example of some tourism and visitor management in protected areas, the guideline. And you can download this point if you're interested and please read this guideline. This is a well summarized and well wrapped and to learn about some protected area management for the tourism management, tourism development. So they are also summarize some opportunities and challenges for the tourism management in protected areas. So how the tourism can contribute to tourism protected area management. For example, they can give some building the constituency of support for the conservation of nature and culture through protected areas by providing outstanding and interpreted experiences that communicates many values of protected areas. But on the other hand, they also provide challenges. Protected areas become simply another commodity or resource to be exploited by an industry that is more interested in the profits, access, and providing new experiences and supporting it. And also there are some provide in terms of conservation. For example, actively contributing conservation through involving visitors in management tasks and contribution of China's or other in-kind support management. But they also provide tourism interest actively undermine the good management by processing for usage, benefit, or access that are detrimental to the conservation of the cultural goals protected areas. So like this, for example, some policy justification of some policies, impacts of the tourism or social and cultural benefit, economic incentives, any local communities, economy. So tourism can provide some opportunity for the challenges. And also how the tourism influence protected areas. And in terms of the aspects of the environment and the economic and the social and community aspects, there are many have discussion about the impacts. For example, the potential benefits, the positive impacts. If we introduce the tourism, we have some tourism development protected area, they may get some good points in terms of environment. For example, they may provide the public education on conservation issues and need, transmit understanding and greater appreciation of natural values and resources through experiences, education, interpretation, and create awareness, the values, natural resources, and protect resources that otherwise have little or no positive value to the extent or considered a cost of the benefit. Any of the some benefits of the environmental benefits can be seen from development tourism in protected areas. And they also provide economics. It's quite important and simple because when we have some tourism, and they may generate economic benefit. And this kind not only for the local, but also nation, region, and community to strengthen the commitment to the conserve natural area and its wildlife. And they can also may increase, they may also increase the jobs and incomes for the local residents, stimulate new tourism enterprise if the tourism is well developed, diversify the local economics, and so on. And not only for the economics, the social community benefit can be also seen in good tourism management areas, tourism management in protected areas. They may improve, for example, living standards for local people as the consequence of economic benefit. Encourage people to value and take pride in their local cultures and protected areas. Support environmental education for the visitor local people and foster greater understanding of cultural heritage, values, and resources. So culture, sometimes they may getting proud of their some culture values through the communication with some tourists from outside. So this might be the sometimes some listed up as some good point, some benefit of some tourism. But they also can provide some negative environmental impacts too. This is just an environment impact. For example, air, light, sound, water, and geology and soil is some physical to the physical environment. Some tourism may cause such negative impact on physical environment, like through some transportation, electricity, lighting, construction, disposal, and so on. But not only the physical environment, but also they may provide impacts biologically, for example. For example, they may alter the habitats by burning and use of natural resource and pollution. And also they may change their ecology or the behavior of the wildlife through any hunting or fishing, pollution, harassment, highway, trail, natural areas by the human people use. So this is some very big concern about some negative environmental impacts. For example, how the kind of the human activity could influence some biodiversity or in some relations. For example, human visitors have when they to satisfy their human visit in a protected period. Sometimes we do some activity for the tourism and the recreational development. Like And this development, some changing their facilities, physical environment, they sometimes cause some habitat clearing, change plant composition, plant production, so on. And not only for the physical change in the facilities of the tourism related some facilities. For example, human activity also directly related. So for example, some pollution or sometimes some, if they influence some behaviors in animal ecology, some animals might be habituated by the people's activities, or if we have some rubbish, we throw any rubbish of the foods and protected areas without any consideration. If the animal uses rubbish as their food in these areas, the animal dietary must be distorted, I think. And they may directly or indirectly influence the animal's production, reproduction, but finally, they may impact on biodiversity itself. So this is just an example, a quite schematic figure of some interrelationship between impacts of tourism and recreational activities. But we have to consider that point when we develop the tourism in the protected areas. But also, not only for the environment impacts, the potential negative impacts on the communities, especially in terms of the social and the cultural and economic aspects, we also have to consider. For example, in the social and cultural impacts, if the tourism cause some things, and they may change their tradition. For example, the potential consequence is a commodification and demeaning of ceremonies that are reenacted of the tourists, causing change in arts, crafts for the display. So tradition is why they have some tradition. This is for their some life, their culture, and so on. But something, if they just display their tradition as some commodification, in that case they may lose the meaning of their ceremonies. It's just a phenomenon earning money. In that case, some people worry about this kind of this meaning of ceremonies, and also the disruption of the traditional pattern, deterioration of the workmanship. And psychologically, the demonstration effect whereby the people change their behavior by observing others in hope of achieving what they perceive to be the highest status may lead local people to initiate tourists but become disoriginated. And crime stability, if the society, some undesired the people come to the communities. Or some people become crazy for getting money, and they some loss of the morality for in the communities. It's some climate and stability of the social society is quite critical. For example, disabilitation of the community leading to increase crime, prostitution, gambling, begging, alcohol, and drug use, sexual exploitation of women and girls, and displacement, resettlement, local community deemed to incorporate with tourism development. So such economic community or the social problems are also concern in this. The economics, the employment and local business development diversification. I probably think most serious problem is some leakage of some economic benefit. If some outsiders come and they have a business for themselves, I think leakage from the profit and movement from the inside to outside, it's I think escalated. So in that case, some economic benefit may not be received for the local people, and this is quite important problems for the as a negative impact of some communities. So to reduce such negative impacts and to increase their positive impacts of the tourism, some IUCN guideline emphasizes 10 principles of the tourism and visitor management in protected areas. And 1, 2, 3, and 4, and some they just emphasize, for example, the objective and protected area values are very important, and appropriate management depends on the objectives. As I'm setting objectives, the target, the sharing some vision for the protected management is very important. And also the number 3 and 4, it's quite important principle was emphasized. So impacts, changing visitors use condition are inevitable and maybe desirable. Because sometimes if we look at only the conservation, we think there is some change. Something is not favorable for us. And also especially for the impacts on resources, the social condition observed, we may think it's quite negative impacts. But we have to consider, we have to know this kind of change must be inevitable as a consequence of human use. So this is the point for the national park protected area management, because we have to seek for some idea situation of the sustainability, sustainable management. So that's case we should not throw with some vision. We should consider always, and we should accept this inevitable change in the local community and environment in protected areas. And also this principle emphasizes monitoring is very important or essential for the professional management. Sometimes many people, especially the top managers, don't understand the importance of monitoring. But monitoring is quite essential in the base of this kind of management, especially for the protected areas, because sometimes we know and we have to check what is a good condition and what is a bad condition of the protected areas. If we think, oh, this is a bad condition, then we have to give some effective measure to reduce the bad effects. So monitoring is quite essential for the professional management. And the decision-making process, affected group should be, consensus partnership is needed, and communication is very important. So conservation is very important, but conservation, the communication is, and any relationship with the local community is quite important. And this means some managers, like some government officers, most of course important, but probably it's not difficult. It's quite difficult to have a very sustainable management of the protected areas without the help of the local communities and stakeholders. However, probably we need to consider the COVID-19 impacts now in protected area tourism management, because as we know now, we are still under the pandemic, especially amid of the pandemic, COVID-19. And now we think I think there are some good sign of some recovery this pandemic effect due to some using some vaccination. But I'm still not sure. But now many people, like me, start to understand, start to consider how we have to do after the pandemic. Probably so after pandemic, people may change their attitude toward nature and also toward the visitation to protected areas. So some people don't like, but some people may want to visit the places after this because they are quite restricted with very heavy limitation, restriction of some behavior. So how we have to recover? Sometimes there are some case studies, but now we have to, I think it's time to consider is the future perspective of this pandemic, post-pandemic world in nature-based tourism in protected areas. This is I cannot give any conclusion, but it's quite important. Okay, we have some less than 45 minutes, and I want to go to the wildlife tourism too. And so first, wildlife tourism. What is wildlife tourism? This is quite simple. SSM aims to observe and interact with local animals in their habitats. But there is a classification of wildlife tourism. And especially for there are two types of tourism. One is types of non-consumptive tourism. So it's some wild watching tourism and viewing or otherwise interacting with free-ranging animals. And the second is captive wildlife tourism, viewing animals in man-made confinement, like a zoo, wildlife parks, sanctuaries, aquaria, and circus, and wild exhibitors. But on the other hand, there are some different types of consumptive. Actually, in Indonesia or in the Asian countries, it's kind of consumptive wildlife tourism is not common. But in Africa or US, this kind of consumptive wildlife tourism is still common. The hunting tourism is quite simple. And hunting is, as you know, is a practice of seeking, approaching, capturing, killing wildlife. And sometimes some hunting species is called as a game, and to get games. So they have some hunting tourism, and this hunting tourism have a very big economic impact on local communities. So this Africa, or especially in Africa, there is big debate how the hunting can contribute to the conservation, because the hunting need any killing animals. But they, in other side, they also cause big economic impact. So if they can use this economic impact, they may use such money or some big resources for the conservation. What is good? Now it's a kind of big debate at the point. The fishing is quite common too. The fishing is a quite popular hobby for us, and some water areas and such as fishing tourism is still common and still very quite popular even in Japan too. And the range of wildlife watching tourism activities is quite varied. For example, not only the mammal species, but also any insects or some fish or any reptile or reptiles can be seen. For example, the butterflies, very, very common, and sometimes many countries have butterfly parks, and they represent some butterfly display in the butterfly parks. And other some conspicuous examples, for example, the Komodo dragon is some large reptile. It's also the main target of the wildlife viewing tourism in Asia. And the almost observing Komodo dragon is quite famous and in the world and in Indonesia. And the snake is also an important observing python, also important target for the wildlife tourism. So thus, there's some range of wildlife watching activities are quite wide. And next is some major international destination of the wildlife watching. And there are some many places. For example, region, Eastern South Africa, Zimbabwe, and places. It's some large mammals like watching the safari game lodge experience. It's quite famous, and later I'd like to show some examples. In North America, it's also have some main target of the main large mammal and birds. In Central and South America, it's mainly forest fauna areas and high diversity, including Amazon basin. But sometimes it's quite difficult because it's in dense forest. It's quite difficult to see the animals. So some species, like monkeys or some birds, and some dire, some active in daytime animals, target for wildlife tourism. In Southeast Asia and South Asia, and various forest fauna in areas with high biodiversity in Southeast Asia, mostly as part of general nature-based experience. Then key species including orangutan, the primate, and Komodo dragon. Komodo dragon is, I'm not sure, still not sure, but orangutan is one of the one of the ape species, and ape and the primate species are some active in daytime, and it's quite difficult, easy to see, easy to observe in daytime, not only for the professional people, but also some beginners. So they are some main target of wildlife tourism. Any other places, not only for the terrestrial, but also some sharks or coral, they have some good marine protected areas. And for example, in Australia or some New Guinea, they also have some wildlife tourism targets. So in wildlife tourism, it's quite famous. I'd like to introduce a quite big, famous example of some wildlife tourism. This is safari tourism in Africa. And in safari tourism is why it's so important and famous. So it is quite easy to observe the big animals. And sometimes we can say that we can call these big animals, and especially for the 5 species, we are calling big 5: African elephant, black rhinoceros, Cape buffalo, African lion, and African leopard. Their 5 species are called the big 5 game animals. And so this is safari area, not dense forest. And it's very easy to see and observe animals without any experience, special skills. So many people, especially for the coming from Europe countries, they visit here and they enjoy to see and observe the wild animals, especially big 5 game animals. But on the other hand, wildlife tourism in Asia, it's quite difficult. This is just a case, a very special case of the wildlife tourism in Asia. This is some Nepal, Royal Chitwan National Parks. And this is the case of wild watching tourism. This we call some elephant ride and safari. And some people can ride the elephant to observe some animals. If they are lucky, they can see some tigers or some rhino, Asian rhino, with some elephant ride. And it's a quite unique and it's quite popular attraction for the wildlife tourism in Asia, and it's quite famous. But it's quite exemption, I think. It's a mammalian wildlife is not a popular attraction in South Asia. So again, I summarize this is current condition. Africa has a long history of mammalian wildlife related to conspicuous mammals with high diversity around us and body size, which are easy to find, observing, or habitat. And then a group of large and charismatic mammal species known as Big 5 is primarily the target of the international tourists in Africa national parks. But in the meanwhile, in Southeast Asia, mammalian wildlife tourism is favorable in national parks that are home to diverse forest habitat. Because as you know, there are many mega countries with rich tropical rainforest diversity, but it is challenging to find and observe wildlife in dense rainforest, with the exception of some large diurnal mammals. So this means Africa has well-established wildlife tourism in safari, but in South Asia, not only for some tours, but also some research still ongoing. And we need more and more research to develop such mammalian wildlife tourism in tropical rainforest in Southeast Asia. So to protect areas, we have to consider the impacts on the national environment, visitors, tour operators, economic return, and host community. This is just examples, but at least we have to consider that point. Not only for the physical environment impacts, but also the biological impact. And also we have to consider some visitors experiences. If we